Gator Dave, Gator Dave, Gator Dave. How you doing, sir?
Well. How are you, Mike?
I'm good. I'm good. Another week, another week. We're getting closer to the end already. It's sad. It's unbelievable that we're at week 5 already.
I know, dude. After next week, we're really about halfway there. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. Dang,
Yeah.
how are we gonna do it?
Wild
How are we
stuff.
gonna do it?
Wild stuff.
But lucky five week. We're calling that. That's Gator Day's favorite number. So hopefully it will do well. So first, couple of things. We're now Bets Utopia, number one location for all things sports betting. Please make sure you guys subscribe, like, follow, and make it happen for us. So live shows on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. That's where we are right now. And plenty of time to make those wagers before a Thursday, Friday, Saturday games, right? So I'm my head's up a little, Mike. I did much better this week. So came out of the doldrums. My team won, but it really doesn't matter. They beat the worst team now in the SEC, but 7-5, respectable week for me, and caught up a little on Miami, Mike. Caught up a little, so you still got the badge, baby. But I'm going after you this week, buddy. Going
Yeah.
after you.
That's second guess. I swear it'll get you every time. Can't
Yeah,
can't second
yeah.
guess.
Do
Can't
not
second guess.
do not do it. Go with the gut. So what do we got? What do we got from last week? You want to throw up the numbers there, Mike?
Yeah, yeah. So they've been up on the screen for a second here. I went 5-7. You went 7-5. So you're right. You were able to cut the distance down quite a bit last week. Some tough games, some good games. Uh, Boston College choked. Oklahoma State. We'll talk more about them in a little bit. But oh my goodness, USC atrocious. Um, Houston. What was that? Can't say enough bad things about that team, so I won't. I'll keep it to myself. But man, yeah, last week was brutal. We gotta switch it around here, Dave.
All right. Well, hopefully we will. So let's get things started. Say hey to Public House, Evelyn, and my lovely wife giving us the Go Dogs, Nirvana. So all right.
We'd love to see
So
it.
shout out to us if you got anything there in the chat, folks. So we're gonna start with an interesting game, Mike. When you threw this one up there, we've got the Ball State. Are they like the Cardinal or Cardinals or something like that, Mike? I don't even know if I know what they are. Is that what it is? Okay.
Yep.
And they are playing James Madison, who ripped and roared last week over the Tar Heels, just hammered them. So we got James Madison get 21 points, 57.5 the over under. So Ball State comes in at 1-2. James Madison at 3-0. Ball State's lone win against Montana State. And they've lost to CMU, the Shark Humper. They lost to your Miami Hurricanes by 62. They're not good, Mike. Ball State's not good. James Madison, however, hammered North Carolina 70 points on the Tar Heels at the Tar Heels. They also beat Garner Webb and Charlotte. So both teams come in, however, a little scary, 2-1 against the spread. So Ball State's quarterback, Samanza, 70%, 658, 7-2, 7 TDs, 2 interceptions. They got a running back, Sloan. He's 210 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, and 2 TDs. Ball State's defense. I'm going to talk about some defense now that we've got a few games under our belt. Ball State's defense, Mike, is 132 out of 133 teams. So I would
Great.
say their defense sucks, Mike. It sucks. Their offense, not much better. They're ranked 110. Offense sucks. James Madison comes in, their quarterback Barnett, 63%, 742, 7 touchdowns and an interception. He's also the leading rusher, 203 yards, 4.7 yards of carry, and a couple of couple of TDs. So Petaway, their running back, is averaging 5.9 yards a carry, not too shabby. Now, James Madison defense is ranked 100th, but I guess that doesn't matter when you're playing, the 110th offense, right? But their offense, however, James Madison ranked 41st. So Madison's got an offense for sure, very balanced. I think that's going to make the difference in this game. And Ball State's got zero defense, and they're playing at James Madison. So I'm going to take James Madison to cover 3 touchdowns, Mike. What say you?
Yeah, you talked about James Madison's offense. They just put up 50 in the first half at North Carolina last week. Finished with 70 in the game. Easily could have had more. They took the foot off the gas a little bit. North Carolina ended up making it look a little closer than that game really was. But, yeah, James Madison put it to them pretty hard. Hopefully they got some points left in the tank for this one, and they can get the cover here. I'm with you. I like James Madison. You said it. Ball State's one of the worst teams in the country right now. As long as they don't stumble and kind of look ahead to next week, I think James Madison handles this one pretty easily. So I'm with you. I think they actually could get this cover probably by the third quarter.
Yeah, and Mike, one thing I saw today just thumbing through was that some folks think James Madison's going to be the group of 5 team that makes it in. So another little nugget. So
yeah, I think that one's buttercup biscuits for sure.
For sure. I think it's sauce me silly. So, all right.
Wow. Okay.
There we go. So, you want to get the next one, Mike?
Yeah, next one we added on last minute a little bit here, Dave. I pulled a switcheroo on you. We had originally, for transparency, we were going to talk the South Alabama LSU game. It just didn't sit right. So, I dug a little deeper into some spreads, looked at some lines, and we pulled out this one with Nebraska taking on Purdue. Nebraska is the -10 favorite here as the away team. I don't really have too much analysis for this one other than Nebraska's the better team. They should handle Purdue. I see this one being like 31-13 kind of deal. I think this one's a lock. Easy pickings, buttercup biscuits again, round 2. Dave, back to you.
Well, so I'm with you too here, Mike. I mean, you threw this one at me, and I'm like, oh my, why did we miss this one? But Nebraska 3 and
Layup.
It is. I think so. Let me go through the numbers, and we might give it a GDL, but we'll see. So Nebraska 3-1, Purdue 1-2. Nebraska lost their game to Illinois last week by 7. They were supposed to win by 9.5, so they didn't cover the spread with a damn. They beat Colorado by 18, but that's not saying that much. Purdue's lone win against Indiana State and the Larry Birds. They lost to Notre Dame by 59. They lost last week to Oregon State by 17. Nebraska 3-1 against the spread, which I think is important here. Dylan Raiola's doing damn good as a freshman. 72%, 967 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Freaking awesome. They got a running back, Dowdell, 256 yards and 3 TDs. And Johnson, their second running back, 9.5 yards per carry. So, that's a pretty good offense right there. Purdue's got our buddy Hudson Card that's been around the block, 64%, 453, 6 TDs, 3 interceptions, not too good. I got a couple of running backs that are actually pretty decent. Maccabee, 267 yards, and Love at 165. He's averaging about 6 yards a carry, which isn't too bad. So they got a little bit of a running game. Nebraska's defense is ranked 30th, not too shabby for a team that's on the rebuild. Purdue, 95th. So, like Mike said, give me the Huskers to cover them 10 points. Probably going to be 14-21. Mike, I'm going to go ahead and call it. It's a Gator Dave lock.
Wow. We need to get some sort of animation for.
Yeah, we do. We need to get the Gator Dave.
We need a lock. We need a lock.
The GDL. Gator Dave lock.
Yeah, we got to work on that.
We
All
do.
right,
We
moving
do.
on to the next game here, Dave. You lead us off here. We got Liberty taking on App State.
All right, so Liberty's got 3.5 on this one, Mike, over App State. Liberty comes in at 4-0. Again, another one of those group of fives. It's got aspirations of making the playoff, but Liberty's only 1-3 against the spread. All their wins are against group of five and FCS, so they haven't really played anybody just yet. But App State 2-2, 1-3 against the spread as well. They got their ass hammered by South Alabama last week by 34. Just hammered. They got beat by Clemson by 46. And they're calling for the coach's head already, just so you know, at App State. Common opponent. We hadn't had one of those in a while, Mike. We're there. East Carolina. Liberty won 35-24 by 11. App State won 21-19 by only 2. So do the math. All right. So Liberty QB Salter, 64%, 949, 7 TDs, and 1 interception. Pretty damn good. And App State's got Joey Aguilar. I know we've heard of him before, but 67%, 1230 on yards, but 6 TDs and 3 interceptions. But App State's defense, Mike, 123 out of 133. Mike, expect the Flames to win this game and dominate on offense. This one I'm thinking is 40-25, somewhere in that range. It's a whooping. Give me Liberty to cover them 3.5 points. And by the way, sauce me silly.
Okay. All right. So in this one, if you're looking at just numbers, yeah, it's Liberty by a landslide. But Liberty hasn't played anybody. They played 1-3 FCS Campbell week 1. They played 1-3 New Mexico State the following, 0-4 UTEP, and like you mentioned, 2-2 East Carolina, which they do have that joint opponent. App State hasn't really played anybody either. They've played 2-2 FCS East Tennessee State, 2-1 Clemson, 2-2 East Carolina, and 2-2 South Alabama. Defense has really struggled. Offense has been okay, but it's been very one-dimensional. They haven't been able to run the football. App State's defense has struggled this year so far against dual-threat quarterbacks. And Caden Salter, the quarterback for Liberty, he has the ability to run the football. He doesn't do it very often, but he can if he needs to. I think that's going to help them down the stretch in this one. So I'm going to stick to my guns here and go with Liberty to cover the -3.5 as the away favorite. But this one was, I don't know, this one was a little sketchy for a while. It went from a lock for me at the beginning of the week to I dug a little deeper, and it kind of got a little spicy towards the end. But I'm going to stick with it. I'm rocking with Liberty.
I think you made the right call there, Mike.
Also, real quick, Liberty's head coach, that's who I was talking about when we had a little brief discussion about potentially Florida's new head coach, Jamie Chadwell, the old Coastal Carolina guy, now at Liberty. He's going to head down south. He's writing something. The price is right, Dave. The price is right. That's the problem. You got to buy out Billy. You got to go get somebody. Jimmy Chadwell will take a pay cut to have that opportunity. You're not getting Lane Kiffin. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Move on. Don't get your feelings hurt before Christmas.
Lane train, Lane
You're
train,
getting cold, brother. You've been bad, Dave.
You've
been bad, and you're getting cold this year for Christmas. All right.
Don't be scared of the Lane train.
It ain't Lane Kiffin. It ain't Lane Kiffin. All right, moving on. We got. I am scared of this one. Okay, we talked about it as well. This one was one that I just mentioned. I was going back and forth on the last one. This one is extremely volatile, in my opinion. We got Louisiana making the trip to Winston-Salem, taking on Wake Forest. Wake Forest is the 3.5-point home favorite in this one. Wake Forest is coming off a bye week, but in my opinion, they need way more than one bye week for this defense. It has been absolutely atrocious. They're giving up an average of 295 in the air and 175 on the ground so far. Louisiana, though, is coming off a game versus Tulane that they really could have won. They never really seemed to get a firm grasp on it, but they did hold Tulane to just 83 passing yards in that game, but they did give up 272 on the ground and had 2 turnovers on offense. Wake Forest does have a competent running back in Damon Claiborne, but as long as Louisiana can kind of keep him under wraps, I think they have a really good chance in this one. Raging Cajuns are 4-2 against the spread in the last 2 years. In this spot, they are 12-5-1 against the spread in the last 6 years as an away dog. The last 2 years of that, they're 9-3 against the spread off a straight up loss. So you would think, looking at the numbers, Louisiana's the play, right? In the wise words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. In non-conference games over the last 2 years, Louisiana is just 3-5-2 against the spread and 5-5 straight up. Not great. Wake Forest is 12-2 straight up versus non-conference opponents the last 3 years under David Clawson. This is a must-win game for Wake, in my opinion. They got NC State on deck. They got Clemson after that. It could get real ugly for them real quick if they don't kind of get the ship going. They got Hank Bachmeier at quarterback, the transfer from Boise State. I think he's going to be able to settle down. I think he gets this offense rolling. I think the defense rallies at home. Dave Clawson gets them back on track. I'm going to go with Wake off the bye week in this one, but I was on Louisiana to start this week. And again, this is one that I really had a hard time with, but I'm going to go with the ACC team at home to not lose against this Louisiana team. What do you say here, Dave?
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling it too, Mike. You kind of gave us most of the stats. I mean, Louisiana being a 2-1, Wake 1-2, and Tulane, they lost a tough one last week. Louisiana did, Tulane. And then Kennesaw State and Grambling, 2 crappy teams that they did beat. Wake got housed by Ole Miss. They beat UVA, which isn't a good – I mean, they lost to UVA by one point and lost to Syracuse by 4. So they've only beat NC State. Both teams 1-2 against the spread. So for this one, I'll bring it down to let's look at the defenses real quick. So, I mean, Wake's defense 133. Oh, excuse me, 128 out of 133. So fifth worst in the country. The Raging Cajuns 21st, Mike. But if you go back and look at the schedule, Wake has played a much tougher schedule than Louisiana. So that got canceled out, Mike. I'm going with Wake Forest, not going to lose at home by, anything. So I'm going to go with Wake Forest in those 3.5 points here. Easy money.
Yeah, and Dave Clawson is also one of those coaches. He's been at Wake Forest for years. I think it's over a decade now at this point. And he's one of those guys that, I mean, typically teams are much better at home than they are away, but he's one of those coaches that it is substantial, a home record versus the away record. It is a vast, vast difference. So, if this was a road game, take that into consideration. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the play.
All right.
Real quick, let's shout out the chat, Dave. We got Meaty in the chat. I see you. Rudy, what's up, my guy? We got Rudy out there. You mentioned Evelyn. Always good to see everybody. We appreciate it. Please drop a like. Subscribe if you haven't. Jump in the chat. Let us know who you're liking this week. If you want any games that you don't see here that you want to talk about, let us know. Happy to go over whatever we can while we're live. Moving on now, Dave. We got Northern Illinois taking on NC State in what, I don't know, lines up to be a pretty ugly game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like Northern Illinois was the darling, right? After they beat Notre Dame and they got bumped into the top 25 and beat the slayed the Giant, and then they got whooped by Buffalo, who's a nobody last week at home, 23-20. So you kind of wonder where that thing is at this point. Northern Illinois 2-1, NC State 2-2. NC State is just not what I expect it to be. They lost to Clemson by 24 and got toasted by Tennessee by 41. When we look at the spread, against the spread, NIU is 2-1. North Carolina State is 0-3, Mike, which is a little scary. Hampton, the quarterback for NIU, 62%, 720 yards, 6 TDs, and 1 interception. They got the running back Brown at 241. He's got a couple of TDs, 4.6. The NIU defense ranked 15th. NC State, you've got who knows going to start at quarterback. Bailey, it was last week for McCall, but they're saying McCall might come back. Bailey's at 64%, 360, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions last week. But the astounding number here is the NC State defense is ranked 106, Mike. I mean, NC State used to be a top 10 defense, and they got the same coach. What is the problem there, Mike? So NC State has won 27 of its last 28 games against non-conference opponents at home. Okay, so that makes they got a pretty good shot, right? NC State's defense sucks so bad, Northern Illinois can score some points against NC State. Okay, NC State's going to score some points. They're averaging 34 at home. Give me the over 47 points in this one, Mike.
Over 47. All right.
Over 47.
I could definitely see that for the same reasons that you just mentioned. This line opened up at 7.5. Initially, it was NC State minus 7.5. It got all the way down to minus 5.5. It's crept back up to 6.5. But NC State is terrible. You mentioned how bad the defense is. The offense is atrocious. The freshman quarterback that stepped in last week, he did what he could. But it's just not sustainable. Not this year, not with that offense that they're producing. That offensive line looks atrocious. They can't get anything consistent going, which is crazy because they have weapons on the outside. Concepcion at wide receiver, that dude is an absolute stud. I wouldn't be surprised if he transfers after this year and this day of transfer portal and everything else, because he is not getting the opportunity that I think he thought he would going into this season. You mentioned it, Northern Illinois. They already knocked off Notre Dame earlier this year. So a win here against, at NC State, massive, massive, massive when it comes to that 12th final playoff spot towards the end of the year. I think that they are able to do it. I think if NC State played, you love talking about common opponents and these teams going against common opponents. I think if NC State played Notre Dame's easily blowing them out by 28 points. No problemo. So for me, in that common opponent scheme, I know you can't really hold too much weight to that when you're discussing, games that don't involve that opponent at all. I think Northern Illinois has a very, very good chance to get the outright win in this one, and I am going to take Northern Illinois in the points. I'm hoping that it gets back up to 7, because ideally, you want those key numbers, 7, 3, 10, 10.5, 7.5, 3.5. You want those numbers that fall with game scoring decisions, come late, garbage time touchdowns, things of that nature. So I would love to get to that 7. If I can't, I think I'm still okay, because again, I think Northern Illinois has a really good shot to win this one outright. So I'm riding with the pack, the real pack, the Huskies. Let's go Northern Illinois.
I like it, Mike. So this is a good chance we can both hit on this one and have 2 different bets. I like it.
How about that?
I think that's a sauce me silly.
All right. Is that your new catchphrase, Dave?
Inside joke,
we
my friend.
We trademarking that one? Inside joke.
Oh, not a Gator
wow. It's like high
Inside
school
joke.
all over again. Look at you, dude.
But just shout out to Kelly, who is watching before the flight takes off from Houston. Bada bing. So
Bada
shout out
bing.
to Kelly. All right. Next up, you got this one, Mike?
Yeah, so mine is short and sweet on this one. We got Maryland taking on Indiana. Indiana is the 7-point home favorite. I'm not taking Maryland in this spot. I had Maryland earlier in the year against Michigan State, and they stabbed me in the back like Julius Caesar. A2 Brute, and I'm not doing it again, Dave. Indiana has the better defense. They're 4-0. They're at home. They're the more consistent team. Maryland, yes, is 3-1. They have that blown loss to Michigan State that they easily should have won. They should easily be 4-0 right now. I think it's fool's gold. I can't trust them. I can't trust Mike Loxley's coaching right now and his decision making. It's just not where it needs to be. I'm going to take the Hoosiers at home here. I think this one is a lock. I think this one is a lock. I think this one's buttercup biscuits, Gator Dave. Indiana's going to get the win. They're going to get the cover. Again, better defense at home. Don't second guess it. Don't overthink it. Give me the Hoosiers. Who you got, Dave?
BCB. I like it. All right. So I'm feeling you, Mike. Maryland thinks they're they're something at 3-1. But we know Indiana 4-0. Maryland's 2-2 against the spread. Indiana 3-1 against the spread. Maryland's on a roll though, Mike. They got 18 over Villanova, 14 over Virginia. But Indiana's big win over UCLA, 42-13, and 52-14 over a lowly Charlotte. But I'm kind of feeling it too. Maryland's QB Edwards is 75%, 1155, 8-2. They got 3 running backs that are hitting between 4 and 6 yards a carry, but they got that defense at number 73 in the nation. Indiana, however, Curtis York, 76%, 1,013 yards already after 4 games. He is 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. Their running backs, Ellison averaging 7.6, Lawton averaging 4.7, Green at 9.2. They can run the damn ball too. And Mike, defense number 3 in the land. Indiana's averaging 50.5 points while their defense is only giving up 9, Mike. Mike, give me Indiana and call this one another Gator Dave lock.
Wow, another one. I like it. We're on the same page on a lot of these, Dave. It's scary. It's either gonna go great, it's gonna go real bad, real quick. It always does.
Real good, Mike. It's lucky week number 5. Gator Dave's favorite number.
There you go.
You go. Next game. Give me this one. So BYU at Baylor. Because I know Mike and I are not going to agree on this one because it's weird. It's a better's weird, and Mike will explain that in a minute. So BYU at Baylor at 3.5 points. Okay, minus 3.5. Over under 45.5. So BYU coming in at 4-0. Check one. Baylor 2-2. Cougars have beaten Kansas State and SMU. Kansas State and SMU, Mike. Those are freaking good teams this year. Baylor has beaten Colorado. And they beat Tarleton State. What is that? BYU 4-0 against the spread. Baylor 3-1. Okay, I'll give them that. BYU Retzlaff, quarterback, 61%. 841 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 TDs. He's also the leading rusher at 113 yards a carry. Okay? He can run the ball too. Their defense, 23rd. All right, Baylor comes in, quarterback Robinson only at 64%. They've also had quarterback Finn in there at 53%. They've got 4 running backs over 100 yards. BYU's got to do something here. This is one of those in the head things that you like, Mike. They've got to avoid that letdown after the big win against K-State, don't they, Mike? Right? And that might be the reason that you're going to go the other way. So BYU, they took care of Baylor in their last meeting, okay? They look to be the better team this season, and they continue to roll. Give me BYU, and I'll take the gift of 3.5 points, Mike. Don't think I'm going to need it, but I'm going to take it. Tell us why Baylor's favored by 3.5.
I have no idea, Gator Dave. I have no idea why they're favored by 3.5. BYU is 4-0. You mentioned it. They've beaten SMU. They've beaten Kansas State. They're now ranked in the top 25. Look at that, Dave. They got a number next to their logo. How awesome is that? Baylor, on the other hand, is 2-2. They lost to Colorado last week in a game that they really should have won. They kind of let that one get away from them. But here's the deal. It doesn't make sense. Again, Baylor is 2-2. BYU is ranked and 4-0. Why is Baylor the favorite? Right? Don't question it. I did last week. I broke my rule because I let hate in my heart consume me, Dave. And it said, play California. Play the Golden Bears. The Seminoles aren't doing it. Do it. Do it. And you know what I did? I did, and I lost. All right? And I'm not doing it this week, Dave. I'm not doing it. Cal was 3-0 last week. Florida State was 0-3. Made no sense why Florida State was a 2.5-point favorite.
Exactly.
They won the game.
Yes.
They won the game. They got the cover. Same thing is going to happen in this game. Baylor needs a win. Dave Aranda, their head coach, is hot. I don't think his seat can get any hotter at this point. He needs a win. This top 25 win at home would be massive for him, for this program. I think that's the reason Baylor is favored. I think Vegas actually has this one correct. Another thing, too, just to notice, so BYU is ranked for the first time this year. A trend that occurs in college football and something to look out for in the future for other teams. When that happens, when a team wins a big game, gets put into the top 25, that following week, usually a loss. They usually stumble. They usually fall. It happened with Northern Illinois after they lost to Notre Dame. They lost last week to Buffalo. I'm pretty sure it happened. 100%. 100%. Well, you go from not being ranked and not relevant to now in the top 25 teams in the country out of what, 135? Especially with the playoff now being at 12 teams. You get into the top 25, you're right there. Everybody's telling you how good you are, how good you've been playing. You listen to that hype all week. It causes you to potentially stumble, especially in a away game like this in Waco. Baylor is hungry. It's going to be hot. 12 p.m. game down there. Go ahead and give me Baylor to get the -3.5 cover here, Dave.
So, Mike, we need to call this type of game something. You know what I mean? So we can identify them in the future so that I don't get screwed. Because, you're going to win this one. There's no doubt. And I just want to make sure we need to call it something.
If you follow numbers instead of teams, it will make sense to you during the long term. If you follow teams over numbers, it's going to be harder for you to wrap your head around why Baylor is the favorite. But having said that, BYU could easily win that game on Saturday if they come to play. I just don't think that that's going to happen. But that's why they play the games. So we'll find out.
I'm coming up with a name for these games that like – the betters, I don't know. I'm gonna do some brainstorming.
Throw some things in the chat too. If you guys got ideas about what we could call that kind of situation.
This game that makes no damn sense.
I think it's a trap. That's the best way I could describe it.
Trap. Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's a public trap game to where you look at the teams and you go, it doesn't make sense. You're giving me the better team with the points. Oh yeah, I'm taking that all day long. And Vegas is sitting there, give me my money.
Yeah,
that's all they're doing, Dave.
That's all they're doing. It's got to be something greedy like that. All right.
Absolutely.
Next
We'll
game.
see what happens, but we'll come
We
back to
shall.
that game next week for sure. But we
Yes.
just mentioned
Yes.
this one. A perfect situation last week. This is Florida State taking on SMU. SMU is the 6.5 point favorite in this one. The line has gone up a little bit. I think it opened at 5.5, if I want to remember correctly. So it has gone up a little bit. That means there is some money coming in on the SMU side for that line to be moving that way. The over-under sitting where it is tells me this is not going to be a very high-scoring game. At least they don't think it will be. I tend to agree. Just because really I don't think Florida State's going to have a whole lot of success on offense. They still are not consistent on defense. They still are not consistent. They had a big second half last game against Cal, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They actually looked like how Florida State's defense was supposed to look going into the season. So that is an upside moving forward and going into this type of game. Can that defense come to play? Because they're going to need to. SMU has a lethal offense. They can throw the ball. They can run the ball. They have a pretty decent defense. They've also had a struggle to the start this year. We talked about them in our preview show. We had high hopes for SMU going into this one, kind of a dark horse potential ACC candidate for the championship, maybe sneaking into the playoff, but they have not looked too great this year. They've stumbled a little bit. It's a perfect opportunity for Florida State to try to pick up a win and kind of get back into this season, and maybe not all is lost. They can get an ACC win under their belt, have things moving forward. I don't see it. I don't see it. As much as I maybe want to, for especially my sister's sakes, who are Florida State alum, and in the chat currently, I'm sorry to do this to you what seems like every week, but I cannot take Florida State in this role. I am going to take SMU. I don't trust Mike Norvell's coaching. I don't trust their quarterback's ability to throw the ball on a consistent basis, which allows the run game to get open looks and get going. They've had injuries, which haven't helped them at all. But it really is the defense. The defense has to come to play. If the defense doesn't come to play, SMU will put up 40 on them and embarrass them in Dallas. It could be 42-14 in this kind of game. I don't know. It could happen. It could happen. I'm going to keep the positivity out there for my Seminoles that are watching this. Dave probably won't be as kind as me in this situation. But, I think the Mustangs got this one. Dave, what do you got?
So my thought is very similar. I am thinking
Yeah.
we've got an SMU team that playing decent. They're not playing great, but the Seminoles aren't playing good at all. So we got a 1-3 and a 3-1. FSU beat California last week. Lost to Tech and BC. SMU beat TCU by 22 last week. And TCU is probably better in California, probably better than Boston College. But SMU did lose to BYU, but we talked about them earlier. They're a pretty damn good team. FSU is 1-3 against the spread. SMU is only 2-2. Looking at the offense, DJ's not the answer, and we know. And the sad thing about it is they got nothing else. So, but DJ's at 57%. He's got 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Their leading rusher, Toafili, is 147 yards after 4 games.
It's terrible.
And Mike, their defense that was supposed to be a top 10 defense is 81st out of 133. Okay. Now, SMU is not just tearing things up. They're getting by, is kind of how I feel about them. Splitting quarterback between Jennings
Yep.
and Stone. They can't figure that shit out.
And that's never a winning formula. When you start splitting
No, it's
quarterbacks
not.
times,
It's
it
not.
gets real dicey
No.
in that locker room when they start picking sides.
60% between the two of them, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions between the two of them. Their defense better at 50th. I think that the fact that SMU's coming off a good victory against TCU, not I don't think they're going to have the big head. I think their special teams and defense are going to be huge because it was big against TCU. And I just think the Mustangs are going to obviously score more points, and Florida State's going to struggle scoring, and Florida State's not going to be able to stop the Mustangs. So I feel pretty strongly about where this one is right now. Man, if you can get it 6.5 points, SMU at 6.5. I mean, 7. It's close to it, but not jump all over this one. So I hate to say all the SMU fans, we don't have Ian here, but FSU is not going to win this one. SMU is going to win this one outright. And being at home is another big deal too. I mean, hell, FSU's been a shit show at home. So
yeah, it's been rough.
Give me
for sure. All right, moving on to the next. Real quick, Gator Dave. Real quick.
Yes.
I just want to shout out our sponsor. That's right, Dave. You know what time of the show it is. You see it up top. We are sponsored by Cover Your Assets. You can check them out at shopcya.com. If you're going to concerts, sporting events that we're talking about here, high school events, things like that, you need a plastic clear bag to get in through security, right? There's a piece of paper in this, so that's why it doesn't look fully transparent. However, you want to protect your stuff, right? You don't want people seeing all your goodies when you're walking through the stadium and seeing what you got to offer. So you go through security, you take off your cover. When you get through security, you snap it back on. Look at that, folks. Completely covered. Completely covered. Your assets are covered for life. Well, I don't know if that's a real guarantee. Don't hold them to that. But they are covered for that event, okay? They are covered. They can't see it. They can't steal it. It's a good thing to check out. Let them know that we sent you. They got all sorts of designs. They got designs for college. They got designs for pros, for basketball, football, hockey, NASCAR,
you name it.
Astronomical, the inventory options that they have on this website. Make sure to check them out. We love our sponsor.
We do.
That's right, Public House. Keep your assets secured. I love it. All right, jumping into the next game here. We got only 4 left on tonight's show, Dave. We're flying through it. We got Illinois, number 19, Illinois, making the trip to Happy Valley to take on top 10 Penn State. You picked this one, so you're going to lead us off because this one has ugly written all over it.
Let me do this. 19 points Penn State's getting. 47.5. It's going to be a high-powered offensive game, isn't it? So we got Illinois coming in at 4-0. We got Penn State at 3-0. Illini are 3-1 against the spread. Penn State 2-1 against the spread. So Illinois big win at Nebraska last week. They also beat a meleaguered Kansas team. Penn State's big win against West Virginia. Mike, they only beat Bowling Green by 7, so a little worry there, but they got through it. They got over the hump. So we got quarterbacks. We got Luke Altmaier, 71%. The quarterbacks are tight. Altmaier, 71%, 862, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They got 3 backs over 110 yards each. Fagan, their running back, 252. Their defense ranked 32nd. You're going to understand why it's 47 points in a minute. So, decent defense. Drew Aller, respectable, but it's only 3 games. I'm not feeling it just yet for him. He's done okay. 71%, 729, 8 TDs and interception. Singleton, the running back, 314, 8.4 yards per carry. Pretty damn good. Their defense is ranked number 9, but they've only played 3 games. So it's all to me. It's going to start with Altmaier, and I think he's done a really good job up there with Illinois' football team. He's got the ability to make the big throws, and he's mobile at the same time. So I think that's important here for because Penn State's ninth-ranked defense, right? I think he's very accurate, obviously, at 71%, and he can put the ball in play. The Penn State, they get it done. I think it's going to be a big dogfight. And I think that Penn State's going to win this game, but I think the Illini are going to give them a run for their money. That's why I'm going to take the 19 points here, Mike. And it is at home, and it's hard to play at Penn State, but I think 19 points is enough for me to take Illinois here. What do you think?
Yeah, this one's ugly. I was not pleased when you put this one on the board, to say the least. I appreciate that. So I'm following the numbers in this one because I don't really have too strong of an opinion either way in this one. Illinois is 9-3 against the spread as an away dog under Brett Bielema since he's been there as head coach. Last time here in this situation playing in Happy Valley, Dave, do you know what happened? Bit of history.
Don't have it, Mike. Tell me. Talk to me, big dog.
The longest game in the history of all sports.
Is this the one that we went
overtimes?
A bazillion overtimes. Yeah.
9 overtimes. Back in 2021, Illinois upset number 7 Penn State at the time as a 24-point underdog. However, Penn State is 9-2 straight up versus Illinois at home since 1997. But they are just 2-9 against the spread over that span. Give me Illinois to get the cover. I'm with you. Give me the plus 19. I think they find a way to get the cover. I think this one's ugly. It's defensive. There's maybe some muffed punts. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be stinky. Hold your nose. But yeah, I like Illinois in this one as well. Night game, though, in Happy Valley, Dave. Always tricky.
Is, but hey, as long as it's not a whiteout, we're good, Mike. That's all we got to worry about. It's not a whiteout.
That's true.
We're good.
That's true. All right.
Next game.
Moving on. We got another top 25 matchup here, Dave.
I like this one, baby. I love this one.
You love this one.
Talk to me.
All right. We got Louisville, number 15 Louisville, making the trip to South Bend, Indiana, taking on number 16 Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 6.5-point favorite in this one. The line has moved a little bit. It started at Notre Dame minus 9.5, moved all the way down to Notre Dame minus 4.5, and it's crept back up to 6.5. So there's been money on all sides at all sorts of numbers. This is one of those games where, we were talking earlier about that 6.5, maybe trying to get to the 7 number, because, that's a key number that you want to have. This is one of those games. You want to make sure you have this game at a key number. If you get it less than a key number, you may get bit by this spread or a half point or things of that nature. That's what this one's got written all over it. The Irish are 2-2 in this series straight up. They started playing back in 2014, so it's a relatively new series. However, Notre Dame in these games are 0-3-1 against the spread. They have yet to cover against the Louisville Cardinals in a game that they play. The visitor in this series is 2-1-1 against the spread. Last time here in 2020, Louisville lost 12-7 as a 16-point underdog. I like Louisville here. I'm still just not sold on a Marcus Freeman run team. They're just way too inconsistent. I need to see consistency week after week after week after week. I wasn't impressed last week against Miami of Ohio. That score was tied 0-0 going into the second quarter after, they had that crazy offensive showing the week prior. They kind of slowed down a little bit and did a little bit of Marcus Freeman action again. I have no problem putting my faith in the defense. I'm not sold either on Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard, when he was quarterback for Duke last year against the same Louisville team, I think they got shut out. It was like 23-0. So Braum, who is the head coach at Louisville, former quarterback for them, he's going to be ready for Riley Leonard. He's going to be ready for Notre Dame. He's going to have these guys ready to go. I don't see a lot of points being scored overall, which is why you can see what the total is sitting at 45 for. 45 is a low total for college games, by the way. It's very typical range for NFL, things of that nature, but for college games, that is a low total, folks. I think the Cardinals get it done here, though. I think they have a shot at winning this one actually outright. Give me Louisville here. Dave, what say you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike. So Cards come in 3-0, Irish 3-1. Louisville's played 3 games at home. So this is their first road game. So they beat Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, Georgia Tech. So this is their first road game. Notre Dame, obviously we know they lost to NIU. Beat Texas A&M, beat Purdue, beat Miami of Ohio. They're only 2-2 against the spread, though. And Louisville's 3-0. Louisville's quarterback, Tyler Shaw, whatever you want to call it. He's the transfer from Texas Tech, Oregon. 68%, 850 yards, 8 touchdowns. They've got running backs Brown and Watson averaging 11 yards a carry. Their defense comes in at 22nd, offense at 14th. Keep that in mind. All right, we bring in Riley Leonard, who's supposed to be the savior. He's only at 59%. And to me, if you're not throwing at 60% in Power 5, there's a problem. Only 587 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He is, however, running for his life and getting 7 yards a carry with 6 TDs there. And they got a running back Love that's averaging 7.5. So they're running the ball okay. Irish come in with 16th ranked defense. Their offense is only 55th. This one's going to be a ground and pound, I think, for the most part. Obviously, Shaw will throw the ball some. It's going to be a low-scoring game. No one's going to score over 30. It's going to be one of those games, both in the 20s, you know.
Yep.
I think this one comes down to Louisville's ability to hold up against that Notre Dame pass rush. And if they can do that and protect Shaw, they're going to be okay in this game. Notre Dame doesn't have a passing attack, so I don't think that's going to come into play. I think eventually Louisville's going to figure it out a way to move the ball, get it in the end zone, make it happen. And I just don't think Leonard's the answer. So give me Louisville and the points, and let's go with that one.
Yep. I think that's like a 28-23 kind of game.
Yep. So next game.
Back and forth. Could get a backdoor cover, too, with a little garbage touchdown on that one. So keep that one in mind for all my Louisville backers. 2 games left, Gator Dave. We got another lots of top 25 matchups this week. It's going to be a good one. Looking forward to a lot of these games.
You take this one. Let me do the last one.
All right. So we got Oklahoma State taking on Kansas State. They are making the trip to Manhattan. Home team in this one is 5-1 straight up and 6-0 against the spread since 2018 in this series, Dave. Did you hear that right? 6-0 against the spread as the home team. Both teams here coming off a loss. Chris Kleiman, the head coach of Kansas State, he is 15-6 straight up off of a loss and 7-0 against the spread off a straight up loss in the last 2 years. If you follow numbers, not teams, you're going to like these. I'm on Kansas State to right the ship this week. That's where I'm at. I'm following the numbers. Oklahoma State's offense was absolutely atrocious last week against Utah. It absolutely hurt to watch. If I remember right, Alan Bowman, 7th-year quarterback for Oklahoma State. I think it was like 8-22 at one time in the game. He ended up getting benched at the beginning of the second half. They put him back in the fourth quarter. They were able to get some garbage touchdowns, kind of get that game closer than what it actually was. That's why it was only a 3-point game at the end. But I'm not a huge fan of Gundy and the decision that he made to bench his 7th-year starting quarterback and then go back to him in the same game. That's not a good look. Their defense has struggled tremendously. Ollie Gordon, their running back, who everybody kind of had as a Heisman hopeful going into this year, potential first-round pick coming back to play running back for the Cowboys. He hasn't been able to get it done all year long. So it's really putting that pressure on Alan Bowman, that older quarterback, to find these throws. And he was never really that guy. He was never the guy to put the team on his back. He needs Ollie Gordon. He needs that run game to take that pressure off of his shoulders, to open up those small slants, those out routes, those cross routes. I don't like what I see in Stillwater right now. So I'm taking the home team in Kansas State, the -4.5. I think they get the win. I think they get the cover in this one. It's a day game in Manhattan, so it's 11 a.m. kickoff local for Kansas State. They absolutely love those early kickoff times out there. I think they come ready. I'm worried about Oklahoma State kind of dragging their feet at the beginning of this one. I think Kansas State, after losing to BYU the way that they did last week, they're going to come out with some fire, with some passion, a lot more so than I think Oklahoma State is going to show. So give me the Wildcats. What do you got here, Dave?
I'm feeling it, Mike. I'm feeling it. So here's the interesting point. Both teams are 3-1, Mike. Oklahoma State only lost by 3 to Utah. And Oklahoma State beat a decent Arkansas team. KSU lost to BYU. They did beat Arizona and Tulane. Oklahoma State 2-2 against the spread. Kansas State 1-3 against the spread. When you think about that at this point, you're going, damn, it sounds like OSU. Let's look at a few more numbers. Shit Show Bowman is granted, he's at 63% and 10 touchdowns, but he's had 4 interceptions. Ollie Gordon is only averaging 3.5 yards a carry, and he's supposed to be a Heisman guy. And, Mike, here's the kicker. The Cowboys' defense is 125th out of 133. That is hot damn garbage. And if you did see that game last week, it was bad. That team looked like shit. I mean,
it was awful.
They were terrible. It was so embarrassing. And then the flim-flamming with the quarterbacks and all that bullshit. It was horrible. Yeah. So Kansas State, Avery Johnson, he's not tearing things up. 61%, 620, 6-3, averaging 6.7 yards a carry when he runs the ball. Giddens, the running back, 6.1 yards a carry. Edwards, the running back, 8.5 yards a carry. It's a running damn team. And that's why we got 55.5 on the over-under here, because it's definitely going to be run and gun. So they can run the ball. Their defense, however, they're not 125. They're 36. Not too bad. I think they're going to have enough to make it happen. I've lost all hope in Oklahoma State at this point. I'm sorry, my friend, Mr. Eddings, who I work with. But I've just lost all hope. You know, like Mike said, Ollie Gordon's not getting it done. The jacking around with the quarterbacks is silly, and a crappy defense. So give me the Wildcats to cover the 4.5 points. Take it.
Yep. All right. Last game. The biggest game of the year so far, arguably, for sure.
It is the game. It is the game when you're in the SEC.
Yep.
The game. We got Georgia at Alabama. And, of course, it's only 2 points to Georgia. Over-under is only 48 points, so it's supposed to be a snoozer. I kind of question that a bit because, you know, a lot of times that game's they always think it's going to be – I'd almost throw some pizza money on the damn over because, you know, those games sometimes get freaking out of hand and get up to 60 points easy. But so here's what we got. Both teams coming in at 3-0. Dogs, big win over Clemson. Had a rough time against Kentucky, but, you know, you have those games. Alabama big win over Wisconsin. Wisconsin's mediocre. They beat USF. had trouble for 3 quarters, but turned it on. Georgia Mike, 1-2 against the spread. Bama, 2-1. The quarterback comparison. So we got Beck, 68%, and 7 TDs. Milrow at 66% and 5 TDs. Running backs, ETN, 158 yards. You know why I'm he's an Gator, Mike.
Because you're a hater.
So
certified.
He's their leading rusher at 157, no TDs. Frazier at 113 and a TD. Defensive rank for Georgia right now is number 4, as you would expect. Running back, Miller, 194, 2 TDs. Haynes, 148, 2 TDs. Defensive rank, 13, not too bad. Both squads obviously got some receiving stars. Alabama's got this freshman kid, Ryan Williams, that everybody's talking about. Next year he'll be in the Heisman race, no doubt about it. The Bulldogs have 6 pass catchers that have caught a touchdown already. So we're still kind of even, right? Alabama's won 2 of the last 3 matchups with Georgia, including last year's SEC championship game where the Tide handed Georgia their first loss of the season and knocked them out of the playoffs. So I expect this one to turn into a defensive battle, as we've got. Each team obviously is going to try to rely on the quarterback, but which one can make the big play, right? Is it Beck? Is it Milrow? Who's going to do it? The offensive lineman, Tate Ratledge, is out. A lot of people are talking about that being a major issue on the Georgia side. Like, all of a sudden there's a hole there, but I'm like, it's Georgia. They freaking grow freaking offensive linemen. So I'm going to discount.
A lot of blue chips.
Yeah, I'm going to discount that one, okay? So I think the Alabama offense is going to be just enough. And the fact that they're playing at home and the fact that I said Georgia would lose 1 game and it would be to Alabama, I'm picking the Tide, and I'll take the points. What do you think?
I think you're wrong. I think you're point blank wrong. Let me just say that right now. It's Georgia. It's only Georgia. How can you pick anything but Georgia? Put this into perspective real quick, okay? You're a 2-time back-to-back national champion. You go undefeated through the regular season, and you lose in your conference championship game, and you get left out of a shot to have a three-peat by this team. You don't think this game has been circled everywhere possible, in the weight room, in the locker room? Oh, buddy, if it's this, Georgia has already won, okay? Nick Saban is no longer on that Alabama sideline. Nick Saban, who has the record of 28-3. 28-3 versus former assistants. He gone. He out of there. He living his best life on college game day and playing golf on their dime, all right? He's got a statue out in front of the stadium, and he can't save them come this Saturday night. It's going to be Georgia. It's going to be Georgia in a big, big way. Don't worry about that game last week against Kentucky. That's a look-ahead spot. That's a sandwich. That's all that was. That you're not going to see that Georgia team. You're going to see that Georgia defense, but that Georgia offense is going to come to play in this one. Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban. And everybody's going to find that out in this game right here. It's going to be Georgia, and it's going to be Georgia in a big way. I am very confident in this. Georgia. Need I say more?
I'm glad you like Georgia, Mike, because they're going to lose. So we shall see.
We can do a little side bet. We can do a little side something if you'd like. A little side action here, Gator Dave.
Well, I can't do that to my wife. She's on the line, so I wouldn't do that on camera here, because I'd be in trouble because she's a Georgia fan.
but you just took Bama. But okay, yeah, I see how that makes sense.
No,
All right, so
that would make it worse.
We're going with the recap here. We're both on a lot of the same things this week. So again, either great, either bad. Follow or fade at your own peril. James Madison, we're both on them -21 at home against Ball State. We both like Nebraska to get it done and get the cover on the road against Purdue. We got Liberty taking on App State. We got Wake Forest taking on Louisiana. I'm on Northern Illinois in the points against NC State. You like the over in that one. We're both on Indiana against Maryland. I'm on Baylor. You're on BYU. We both like SMU against Florida State. We both like Illinois against Penn State. We both like Louisville against Notre Dame. We both like Kansas State against Oklahoma State. And last but not least, you're going to take that L because the Bulldogs, they're going to be barking Saturday night, Dave. Bulldogs by a gazillion. Book it. Book it. Somebody find the number of gazillion. Give me a prop bet on it. Send it. Full send. Full send. Georgia by a mile. All right. I appreciate everybody who has jumped in the chat. Chat was awesome today. It was jumping. We really appreciate it. It was funny to see. We definitely see y'all's comments, so keep them coming. They had me cracking up while we were doing the show. Please like, subscribe. Make sure to comment on the video below if you want to see something next week. If there's a game you specifically want us to talk about next week, let us know. We'll throw it on the board. We talk 12 games every week. We're here every Wednesday night. Please also check out the NFL show. The NFL show should be starting after this one gets done, after we sign off here, probably in about 30-ish minutes. NFL should be on live YouTube as well, so check that out. It'll be myself and Steel City Scott coming back for week 4 of NFL. Gator Dave, anything you'd like to add before we sign off for this week?
No, appreciate everybody being on the chat. We had a really good one. Like Mike said, it was really fun and a good week. Look forward to see what happens in lucky week number 5, Gator Dave's favorite number. So I think the folks out there ought to take a look and see all those we agreed upon and take it for what it's worth. But I think we're gonna have a good week. And again, thanks for everybody being on. Like, subscribe, follow, all that cool stuff. And we'll see you guys again next week. Gators got to bye, but still, go Gators.
Friday night, Dave. Top 7 in the country. Friday night. We got Vatek at home, baby. Let's go. Let's keep it going. Go Canes. Go Canes. And don't judge my bark. I saw that in the chat. Don't judge my bark. All right? That's my first bark. It might be my last bark now, okay?
And
I'm sticking with Georgia, though. I'm not going to let the hate. I'm not going to let the hate change my pick. Your boy
Scott Crawford said Bama by 6. Boom. All right. Have a good one.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's why he's on the NFL show, all right?